188, the number of members of parliament that are women. 3, the president, the vice president, the prime minister, and the speaker of parliament, all 3 top positions in this country, all occupied by women. This is a great leap from the beginning of, from the early 1990s, when we had a mere 41 women representing women in parliament. Now, the question today is, have these significant leaps contributed anything at all? Have we witnessed any contribution based off of these significant leaps? With me in studio today, I have a great panel who will be discussing this great matter. I will introduce them, beginning from my extreme left. Ms. Omega Aloyo, who is a lawyer and a communications officer at FIDA Uganda. Honorable Salamu Musumba, the FDC Vice President, Eastern Region. And Honorable Dr. Miria Matembe, a women's rights activist.
I don't want that word. I'm not an activist. I'm a senior citizen in this country. I'm a child of God. And I am a human rights promoter and defender.
A human rights promoter and defender. Yes. So, Honorable Miria, I will start with you today. Because, you know, we were giving numbers today. We're saying there are we had 41 women in 1996 representing women in parliament. We're saying now we have 188 women. But I don't think a lot of us understand how we got here. The history, the steps, the leaps, the initiatives that were taken to get us here as a people. So as I know you were here, I know you witnessed it, I know you took part in this. So I would just like you to kindly break down for us the exact steps that got us here as women, that got us this seat.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I don't know what you want me to break down for you, but what I want to say, I'm glad to be here to share this debate and to be with my sister here. We haven't met for a long time.
Yes, thank you.
I want to straight away say that impact and influence does not necessarily depend on numbers. Mm-hmm. No. So when you bring me to compare the parliaments of the Matembe, of the Musumbas with the current parliament, mm-hmm. you are doing wrong to compare the two. Because the environment, what I came to learn through my experience, as to whether, now that we are discussing women, as to whether women are able to make any influence to transform their lives, the lives of Ugandans and the community and everybody, mm-hmm. depends, one, on the government's, on the prevailing environment in which the governments have the political will. If they have the political will to promote gender equality and women's empowerment, and the environment in which the women are operating is free, democratic, and free for action, for these women to enjoy their human rights, to be able to express themselves freely, to even demonstrate against the wrong things that are happening to them. If the environment is that, even if there are 10 women, or 40 or 30, like you are saying, when I went to parliament, we were 39. Minimum of 39, because we were maximum over, because we had 39 districts. Mm-hmm. But I can assure you the impact we made at our level of 39. You remember when they were saying that I prescribed castration of men? Has it ever been forgotten?
No.
That showed that the political environment was so conducive, the political will of the government was so conducive. That's when they had said, women, where are you? When before then, women were nowhere, although our big sisters, the Mpangas, the Karemas, they were struggling. They struggled even up to independence. Women participated. They also did a lot of work, Florence and all these people. to ensure that we get independence. But after that, the environment changed and they were struggling with no environment. But come 1986, when NRIM, the original, not this fake one, the original NRIM of the movement, where we all came in, when they said, women, where are you? And women like us who were dying and craving to get on the political platform, on public space, we came on the public space and we made tremendous impact. But now, the numbers, they are not, we were 39, and now you multiply by when? And we had never got the highest level of women at the highest position. When we got the first woman chief justice in our time, and we sang, and that you people don't know where we came from. We came from very far. The environment was no good at all. But when NRM came and said, women, where are you? That's when we first get the first chief justice. The deputy chief justice, have we ever got any now? And we got the vice president. We have just got one, but one who is just for decoration. But the vice president, because we was the vice president. Now you are talking of this one, the fishermen. The fishermen, as President Museveni called them. You can't compare them with the other great women who came on the public platform, empowered by the political environment, by the political will of the government. So you need to distinguish these things. But before I even end what I'm saying so that you can ask other people, I'd like to express my disappointment. I know today we have come to discuss the tremendous impact made by women. But you know, Salamu Musumba, we used to say, women, why we are fighting for women? Women are more human. Women, they are mothers. They are so emotional. They are so concerned. They carry
the country with them. They carry the community.
Corrupt. For them, they are driven by service to the people. All these were the excuses we are given. I want to say that as I talk now, together, because these days I speak for my sisters, the Mpanga, the now Karemistiro there, the Rubega, the Sarantiro. If they were here, they would be feeling like I'm feeling, so sad that we are embarrassed, that the reasons we are putting there for women to go out there were not true. That the Ugandan women have proved that no, that's not right. We are also as bad as the counterparts who are men when it comes to self-driven and lack of people-centered service. And I want to say that I was very disappointed when I saw, is it Namuju?
Yes.
This girl Namuju, where they found so much money there, where they've been charged with corruption, and now after releasing them on bail, and I tend to think that even they could have already paid for judgment. I don't know. But the way I saw things going, I don't want to preempt things. But when I saw her in church, with all the priests, with all the public, they are thanking God that their girl, their woman is out. They are very happy. They are celebrating. And after that, they went to their parents to eat our money, to enjoy the money that they must have taken through corruption. I said, surely, what has happened to this nation? Because I didn't see, Salam, I'm not here to judge, but I didn't see somebody standing up in the church and saying, God forgive me. I want to thank you and ask for forgiveness because although I was corrupt, you've been gracious to me and you have granted me bail and so I'm here to thank you. I didn't see that. I only saw the people. And this reminds me of one small book entitled The Value of Integrity, where Pam Brown says, when the government loses integrity, like it has done in Uganda, the times are desperate. But when the populace accepts the loss, the times are dangerous. Ugandans, the times are dangerous because the government has lost integrity and the population has accepted the loss, and it is there enjoying the corruption. And then, of course, on this one, I want also to quote the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, verse 13, which says, "From the least to the greatest, all are greedy for gain. Prophets and priests alike, all practice deceit. They have no shame in them." This is where Uganda is, you people. Whether women or no women in participation, this nation needs to be pitted and be redeemed.
Thank you so much, Honorable Miria. You know, you mentioned a very important point about the government having the willpower to actually see women in positions, but actually empower them to do something with these positions. So in regards to that, I bring a question to you, Honorable Musumba. Do you believe the government today has the willpower to actually not only put women in positions, but actually see them do something with these positions? And if not, why is the case? What would be the reasoning behind putting a woman in a position and giving her nothing to do with that position, or putting the wrong person in such a position?
Well, from my standpoint, the women have disempowered themselves, and they have eroded all the investment that leaders like Honorable Matembe invested so that we could sit here. I don't know how that generation of women feels, where Victoria Marker is today and what she thinks of Sechitole Victoria, what she thinks and how they feel. Lois Gwambale and the like, it was such a foundation for us to be where we are, and we now take it so much for granted. And we have been true to what the past generations actually believed women were. We have just proved them right, that we don't belong in these spaces, because we don't seem to understand that an office empowers you just by being an office. I want to give an example. I was a chairman of Kamalit District Local Government. It's largely an empty space. And I used that space to enlarge it and to widen it so that people could appreciate its value. In the spaces that fellow women occupy, they've chosen the lowest common denominator of just presence. They just love being presence and powdering themselves and, shining our lips. We're just the same old thing that God created, no value added intellectually. Out of the of the political sphere, because that's the worst sphere where women have disappointed. You go into the music sphere. What have the women brought on the table in the quality of the music, the presence of women? What do they represent? Look at the religious realm. Where are the women and what have they allowed themselves to be? They're no different from men, because the things that men do on the religious platform is exactly what the women are doing. And it's sad. So that one is already cross-cancelling effect. And the consequences of it are that the cumulative failure of women in every space has long-term consequences for where women and girls will be in the generations to come, and where the girls will position themselves to be, because even for a woman to be in any space, it's a choice they consciously make. When you look at the legal fraternity, what difference have women made? In the past, just for a man to hear about FIDA, they knew they had heard about Matembe, they had heard about Kadaga.
And
they knew they would style up themselves. And you know, that was a deterrent for many families to start to shape up and do their responsibility. Today, it's a joke. I mean, the way the derogation, the way the women take themselves, first and foremost, the way we take ourselves, and the way we want people to take us, it's the way we take ourselves that determines how others will take us. Women in the media, very many, go to any function, you'll find them running all over the place. But give me an outstanding woman reporter. Today, there's none. Content, influence, none. So we are just busybodies in all the spaces that we occupy. And we have brought this unto ourselves.
So, Honorable, you're saying that because women have disempowered themselves, it has been a natural decline for the government itself to realize that women have no value.
Listen, we are the government. A government is just as good as the people in it. And we have eroded our half, because ours is half. We were working, the Honorable Matembes went to the African Union and compelled heads of states who have become headaches of state to sign a solemn declaration of gender parity, 50-50. And for them, they weaponized that to turn 50% of women just escorts, you know, just numbers for them to advance their agenda. Women have put themselves back into that space of
just numbers,
of servicing men, and it eats me up.
I'm sorry, before the young lady comes in, I would like to, may I defend women? So I'm not going to disagree with you, but I want to give them some breathing space. Because for me, what I see, that's why, it's because we are just discussing women. But if we are discussing men, it would be the same story. For me, I want us to see the environment, the public environment in which the women are taking space. Is this environment conducive? Is it conducive to these women?
But Miria, you turned a hostile environment into an environment that grew us.
Yes, the environment.
Don't blame an environment as if it creates itself like rain.
Mean now,
where do you sit in that environment? And how do you impact that environment?
What I mean now,
okay,
the environment I'm talking about is the environment which was, should I say, inviting women. Come in and play your part. Come in and take your position and support men for the development of this nation. Because we have seen brain in you, that kind of environment. Now, that environment was having leadership which was driven by service to the people. It was a leadership which was people-centered and service-oriented. I am telling even you, Salamu, even me, I powered myself for the sake of women, that they may come up and be this FIDA, what action for development, women and finance, great trust, all these. And then the political environment was not closing us, was saying, yeah, supporting us.
But now the political environment is actually supporting you to steal.
Now,
So
I was
listen,
coming to
listen
that.
to me.
I was coming
So
to
the
that,
environment,
Salama.
the environment gets infected by you, the occupant. An environment doesn't create itself
I was
because there are
coming to that.
constitutional safeguards. There are constitutional safeguards. There are constitutional safeguards. Those have not been breached yet. So you cannot blame government or the environment
what
because
I
it has
was-
been inoculated. It is available for us
What
to
I
use.
was coming
Why
to,
have we not?
Salama,
Yes, my dear.
please. What I was coming in is the environment and the atmosphere has been captured by love for power, for life. The whole issue of life presidency of nothing more environment to serve but to gain.
Preservation,
To
self-preservation.
gain, to stay in power forever, to gain, it was people-centered and service-oriented. Now, it is
Power retention.
self-centered and power-oriented. Wanting power for the sake of serving yourself. That is the environment that, for instance, let me tell you, the women who say we want also to contest, they come to contest, get there on the sotia. What have you given me? What are you living with me? Now, to the extent that now, Salama, any sensible person who was going to politics to say to make a difference, and has no money, has nothing, he would say, ebyo katubirekere, let us live for those. That is the kind of environment with no integrity,
But you know, Miriam,
corrupted completely. And
Miriam,
Salama,
you have to continue
even if you bring these women who come, like, let me tell you, for instance, when I was pleading for the senior citizens, the way they beat them, the way they torture them, the way they grab their land, I was seeing it on TV, and I was crying, God, who is going to talk for these people? And in the meantime, what happens, like God heard my cry. They wake up and say, hey, the elders are to be represented in parliament. Salama, I didn't want to go back to politics of Uganda, but I said, hey, God has answered my cry. He's now calling me to go and speak for these women, for these people, senior citizens in parliament. Salama, I offered myself to go and contest, to go to parliament. And I had my program, I intended to really make policy, to drive policies, programs, and systems that would bring the seniors on board in the development process of Uganda. I knew what I wanted. Like I knew what I wanted for women. I knew what I wanted for the elderly because I'm part of them. We didn't incorporate them. We find ourselves now like this. I was going to mobilize these young people and say, please let us do these things, otherwise you are also coming on. I offered myself. In short, because she has to talk, I went there, and I got this one seat, which is national woman for the citizen, the elderly. I want to ask you, who on that seat would defeat Matembe in terms of what she wants to do? With my mouth, with my passion, with my commitment, with what? With all my qualifications, former member of parliament, former minister, former commissioner, former everything. Do you know the name of the woman who is supposed to have defeated me? You will never know her. I don't think you will hear her speak, but they released billions of money, and from the state, because the president, the NRM did not want me there. So they released billions of money also for Babu, against Babu, and we were defeated by, supposedly defeated by nobody. Because for me, I told them that what I saw was not elections. What I saw was wholesale voter purchase. Wholesale, I saw it like this. And I said, God wanted to show me how far bad off our nation has gone if the senior people like me were being bought like chicken or whatever. And
Gizzards.
that's what I saw. There's a
Gizzards.
woman, you will never know her name. She will never say anything. She was a cooperative. These people who were studying at Nsamizi. Studying at Nsamizi, social worker. No degree, no nothing. I think O level. And she was saying, the PhD, tuzilinyemu. They had stepped into mud, the PhD, at the election point where I was. And I was seated there singing and saying, cry my beloved country. So now, what would women do? I went wanting to change the situation, but because the system is so rotten, and you cannot do much. If you manage, they pay for you and you reach there, you also want to make the money. What sort of people, what is the integrity of the people within the system? And even if you went when you were saved, and I thank God, I said, God, thank you. Because I don't think I would have achieved what I wanted. I don't think I would have had the opportunity even to raise these issues with the current speaker. Wow, what could I have done? So, Musumba, I wanted you to look at it with that eye, which also has a pity on the women in how far they can influence the governance agenda.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorables. Omega, I bring you into the conversation. And I like that you're here because you bring into this conversation the civil society. And I know to get...
And the young generation.
And the young generation.
The young women.
The young women.
I don't like the generation. I like the young women.
The young women.
You get lost in generations, and you might
true.
think that you'll be young forever. I love to see you girls.
Thank you.
Tell me how you are.
I'm okay. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here with you and Honorable Matembe.
Thank you. So you work with FIDA. I know FIDA does a lot of work that requires them to engage with the legislature quite a bit. I know you've been pushing for the marriage bill. I know you've been, it's quite a bit of work. And this is why I bring in this conversation. Because for you to be able to do your work, you need a conducive environment at the legislature. You need the women leaders we're talking about to care for your work. How have you found your dealings with the legislature? How have you found the women leaders we have today? Is there really any impact in regards to moving these things?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Like I said, I was happy to be here. I'll just maybe give my 2 cents on this topic. I read it 2 days ago, and it says, has the increased number of women in leadership brought about any significant changes? And it just ticked something off in my mind. I was not content with the question. I didn't know why. But then later on, I realized that the question was phrased so badly. Because this question would never be phrased the other way. Has the increased number of men brought about change in leadership? It is impossible because men are the standard of leadership. If you look at gender norms, the women are supposed to be in the kitchen, cooking and what. So leadership in itself, that space, is considered a male arena. It's a male arena.
And
so
we're
you
just
even
encroaching.
have to converge two honorables here to ask them, has the increased women that are testament that it has brought about significant change? So you have to convert them and ask them this question that the reverse would never be. It's impossible to ask such a question because that is the standard. But again, I'll just quote Condoleezza Rice. She says we need to move away from beyond the idea that girls can be leaders and create the expectation that they should be leaders. This question that you've asked, it's ideological. It's the same way if we had a panel here and we were asking, has the increased number of disabled people brought about significant change? Of course the answer is yes. Because the whole concept of leadership is leading, being at the top of the pack. You have people behind you and you're driving them towards a what? Towards a goal, right? So the more inclusive that pack is, or the more inclusive the leaders is, because the way leadership works, it's in a pyramid triangle. There is one at the top and there are people down.
Yes, this is true.
And there are people down, right? So the person that is at the top, say Honorable Salamu, Honorable Matembe, whoever is at the top must be seen to represent all the people that are in that little pyramid. So you should, I'm not saying you should have a background of poverty, or you should know what it means not to have, what not to lack. You see, things like that. If there is any if there is any inconsistency between the leader's vision or the leader's experience and the people, you will have a challenge, because the people will not be a representation of the leader and the leader will not be a representation of the people. This is what my honorables here were talking about when it comes to issues of corruption. All those are problems of misalignment between people and leadership. You say you're going to parliament to represent the people. I'm coming to the question of the marriage bill. You say you're going to parliament to represent the people, and then you end up having corrupt leaders. You end up having people who are so insensitive to the needs of the very people that they represent. Then you have people that are being bought off for votes because they no longer have any faith in the public system. So even those questions of people being bought off for votes, those are huger questions. Those are economic questions. Yes. The garbage thing that was on the news, that is a question of housing. It is not a question of that there was rubbish and people were staying. How insensitive to human suffering, can you not see that that is a question of poverty? Of housing. Where is the ministry? There is a ministry of national something, housing something.
There's a ministry of housing.
There is a ministry of housing.
But if people, yes, national housing.
And Honorable Matembe was saying that there were even mansions built there. So it is representative of a systematic rot. Because how did they start building? To build, you need a permit, right?
Without interfering with you, that brings us to real part of this environment I'm talking about. There is Ministry of Housing, but does it have power to do anything? Because why am I asking that? Today I was in my vehicle, I heard on the radio that today is Youth Day. Yeah. They are celebrating Youth Day, but the young people are fighting over the money which has been given to them by the president. Now my question was, this is a Youth Day. There is a Ministry for Gender, Youth and Sports. Why should the president be the one to have the money to give to the youth? Because he is the authority, he is the power. He has undermined all ministries. In fact, by the way, if you want to know, President Museveni does not value ministers, I think, and ministries. He appoints them there to legitimize what he does. So when you are going to condemn ministries or what, first ask, do they have authority? Do they have power? Or the dictatorial leadership has usurped the power of all these institutions that they cannot work.
And that still, when you talk about that type of leadership, again, like we said again, leadership is about a vision, a goal. It feels odd that I'm even speaking it to people that have been in leadership. I've never been in parliament. So it's about a goal, right? So the constitution,
looking at what you see, what do you see the goal is?
The goal right now. And again, it comes back to we are a constitutional people. We have to be governed by the constitution, right? If you're going to become a leader, what are the what are the legal? Okay, if I'm going to become a president, do I understand what being a president is? Have I learned from the past? Do I represent the people? Or like Dr. Miria Matembe was saying, the legitimization of positions, right? And if you have that legitimization of positions, you have people coming in without serving public interest. I'll refer again to that I'm not here to suffer. You saw that Omega. Rest his soul. Someone saying, I definitely did not come here to suffer. For me, that is the number one example of the state of leadership. That it has become a thing for grabbing and keeping. And you had asked me about the marriage bill.
But before that, do you believe that the people that we have now in parliament understand their duty? Do you believe that they have appreciated their history, the history we're hearing now? Especially, do you see that in them, or do you see a certain gap?
To answer that question, I would ask you, what is the composition of parliament? Which political party takes the lion's share of the parliament?
Yes.
Because if you answer that question of the lion's share and who those people's allegiance is to, then you've answered that question. The leader of that particular group. And are you to serve the people, or are you to serve a political party, or are you to serve a regime? Those are two different things. I will not answer it. You answer it yourself if you get the response.
You see, people need to know that actually the parliament is in a name. The people in parliament do not know their role.
Yeah.
And the president, the executive, has actually made it clear that it even despises the parliament.
The parliamentary role.
And blames it for failure to do the work which is meant for the executive. Because you have seen the members of parliament, they buy the ambulances. They are the one building schools.
And
they are
building
just
hospitals.
Building churches. They are building hospitals. Since when was a member of parliament supposed
to carry out
those
those roles?
To do those responsibilities? He was supposed to.
And even buy your way to heaven.
Yeah, buy
when you get
If
what do
was
they
a
call
charge.
it? What do they call it? The budget to
Appropriate.
appropriate the budget and then oversee to see how the budget is being spent, and they will have said this much will go to this, this will go to this, this will go to this, and then oversee and see whether it has done that or the other. Now, they are the ones doing the work of the executive. No wonder we have a transactional sort of a body which is not parliament. Muse is here. If you do this, I give you this. If you do this, I give you this. That is the type of the body which you call parliament. And by the way, it means it. The other day, he was at his office where he was talking to the young people of the NRM, and I heard him saying, look at this parliament. I think this Anita has no job to do. Or I think I should give her another job. Because they are just there. Order, information, point of view. They're just doing nothing. Can you imagine what is the role of a parliament when it is debating national issues? You debate. You say order, you raise on procedure, and then in the end, you reach a decision. But he was demeaning them, that they are doing nothing. Order, information, and he was laughing. Oh my God. And they have accepted that. They have bowed to his feet, because what drives them is what they get out of this position and not what they give to Ugandans.
Maybe
Thank you,
just
Omega.
to add on to that,
Yep.
I still have the question of the marriage bill. Something that I really am seeing cropping up is engendering corruption.
Yes.
Corruption is not gendered.
Yes.
The way things are being presented right now, it is sort of to say that if women are in leadership, you have more corruption.
Yes, it is collectivized.
Yes, it is some sort of, I don't know if it is pushback, but that is not the state of corruption. Corruption is a personal trait. When you have a misalignment between what you're supposed to do and you're put in a position of resources, that is what will happen. It is the same way a person can be greedy. Greed is not based off gender. So we must fight that engendering of corruption that is coming in, because it can be a gate to future women to engender it. No, not in a bill, not in a bill. Just by public perception. To say, oh, this woman has been corrupt, this woman has been corrupt. You see, this is why they were not supposed to be in positions of leadership. But that is not the truth. You have women that have been in positions of leadership that have done great things. Case in point, 2 panelists. Case in point, Rebecca Kadaga and Juko. She did stand big for her. 52 billion shillings going about to thousands of women. So the question of leadership is, it must be removed from anything that can eat it up and take the question away. Now, going back to the question of the marriage bill and how we think the parliament can help us, something that I know
Has
is...
it helped you?
The parliament, it has helped us. As civil society, we have tried. Civil society has tried through collective gatherings, say with Uganda Women Parliamentary Association and different civil society organizations coming together, because the truth is that is the only point that we have. We are not elected members of parliament. I always say within my little circles of friends that perhaps it is time for civil society to have a seat in parliament. It is something.
It would gain nothing.
It would gain nothing. It would gain nothing. But it would provide a humanitarian aspect to certain.
Shouldn't the humanitarian aspect be represented with the people?
Legislation. Say for instance, if they are discussing a sugar bill, right? When parliamentarians, and I'm not one of them, I'm not claiming to know, when they're going to present a sugar bill, they'll present it from an economic perspective, right? To say this and this bill. But if you had representatives that were humanitarians and they were working and they were doing research in this and this, they would say perhaps this clause is going to affect these and these genders differently. I don't know
Now,
how that would
I want
be.
to help you here.
How that would
Yes.
be.
Because when we are the people who started all these civil society organizations, and I want to tell you that we are working closely with Parliament, okay? Because like when Upford and FIDA, they would, when you wanted what they wanted,
They were resource.
they would do research and do everything, and then we people in Parliament who are interested in those affairs, we would come and say, okay, we identify the men and women in Parliament who would be catching the speaker's eye. And we get all this information we want to put in
The
Parliament.
researched one by
And
you.
put it into that pigeonhole.
Yes.
And me, I would go and I tell these people, you know what? And they didn't have research assistants. They didn't have anybody. So this would be the information when they stand up and talk about these gender issues. We didn't have to talk. Like Kanyamba would talk, Babu would talk, and Kagonyera and all these Omara Tubo, they would stand up, they have this information, and they would talk and the bills would go through. So you don't need to be there. The fact that you need to be there knows the system has broken. That now I want to ask you, now that the elder are there, tell me, the senior citizens are there, what have they come out? The 4 years now, what do we hear? What has happened? They are just
Honorable
there
Matembe,
saying nothing.
there was a time when a women's center was built in Makere.
Yes.
What does it do?
When
does
when we brought
Women
that
and Gender
thing,
Studies?
Yes.
even
The School of
gender
Women and
development
Gender
Studies.
What does it do?
That was us. When we brought 1.5, that was us.
So
We
what
did
is it
things.
doing? You see, if you
Under
don't,
the
if you
environment.
do not do an analytical advice to all these spaces, to tell them and read the Riot Act for them, you have let us down.
Who? The women.
That department. It should be churning out policies. It should be doing the work that you are. And it should be
Do they
championing.
receive them? Those policies, does the government take them up?
Where
And I
are they
think also
even in the
Dr.
public
Matembe brings
space?
a good point. The current
Actually,
political, the
But
current
they don't
political
research.
environment.
Actually-
All these policies,
They go
have-
where?
Do they? Do
They
Actually,
take
I
them?
think a good example
They
of
should
this
even
would
be
be
sharing them with political parties. Are they? Because
Are
these
you?
are the building blocks of politics in Uganda. We went multi-party. Do you?
Do you?
Because you see, the biggest problem, I'll tell you.
For us.
You see, you can sit in that space
you have no-
and be analytical and talk to empty space without engaging the real gears of movers and shakers in the political system.
But do the movers and shakers want to move and shake anymore?
They do, but
We
I'll tell
did.
you,
You
I'll tell you,
know what
NGOs lost the plot soon as we went into multi-parties because they were in the joyride of individual merit.
No, but they
And
shut
they
them
also,
down.
listen, before even they shut them down, I've made this to them, ISIS Wiki, I've talked to all these women, WoNet. I said, you lost the plot, re-engage.
Oh.
Because you see, even NGOs want to occupy the space of politics.
Me, I know our FIDA works.
We work and
I'll tell you.
We
do.
By the way,
I
it is
want-
almost
it
the
cannot
one
be
remaining
it
work.
cannot be undermined, the work that NGOs are doing,
Yes.
given the current political context that they are working. If an organization as huge as DGF got shut,
Yeah.
it is not enough to say that NGOs lost the plot. They did
They
not.
did. They did.
Hundreds and thousands of women
They
are being
closed the
assisted by
space.
FIDA Uganda right now.
So
Even
why
you on
aren't
it,
you?
they are working
Why
within.
aren't they giving the product, the
Actually,
end point of
Honorable
empowering? Yes.
I think when it's not just shutting down of organizations, and I'm obviously interrupting you here, but there was a deliberate attack. There was a deliberate hunt down on specific organizations, like ONET, for example. They had their accounts shut down for years. Like people
But what
were
about my Sedu Matembe here because she was
Sedu.
So how do you then
Action
do the work that
Aid.
you're supposed to
54
do?
organizations were closed.
Action Aid, for
Only
instance.
the one which opened is Aloyo. just
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. For him, we
Appeal.
went to court and pursued it, and for our SEDU, they said, what is Matembe do? I had to resign so that the organization could be opened up. But then it never opened up, and all these, even the writing, what is this femme writing?
Yeah.
Was also closed.
But
And
I think that
once-
goes to show you that if you can have that same encroachment into the civil society world, to the point that civil societies are debating to actively enter politics or to serve the marginalized man and woman, because organizations that you refer to, FIDA Uganda, 52 districts, working every single day, hundreds of cases, they're on the ground. But then if NGOs are placed in a position where they have to choose between shutting down and actively engaging in politics.
Didn't I go to release them?
How do you do it? Even with the current protests, you had NGOs, you had youth coming out and saying we're going to protest against corruption, right? How did NGOs help? There were very few organizations that came out. I remember our organization was one of them that put up a public notice and said, if you want legal aid service provision, come here. But even
Women's
when we put
Pro
it
Bono
down,
Initiative
yes,
as well.
Women's Pro Bono Initiative, different organizations, very, very few. The organizations that were helping people in the background were quite a number.
Yeah.
People were at prisons incognito because they know they do not have the leverage of starting up their organization once it has been shut down. So the role of NGOs cannot be what? Taken away from them. They are working.
So the role of NGOs is backstage. Not
it is not
stage.
backstage. It is
It's
not, but they're working in front stage. They're just not
You
working.
just said so, that you're working
But
backstage.
don't you know you as parties you are shut down even although you struggle the way you struggle?
We do.
This environment which I'm pointing to.
So who will sanitize
you better
the environment?
look at it. The one who will sanitize it, let me tell you.
Yes.
Now I don't know we're about to come to an end.
Omega,
Tell you.
Yes, please.
Are you scared at FIDA that you make the wrong move and you're shut down?
I don't think we are scared. We are not
Are
scared.
you apprehensive a
They
bit?
tread carefully.
What is the general consensus?
English.
Say it as it
What
is.
is the general consensus? I think then you have to know what is the heart of FIDA Uganda. This is something that even in my daily work, as I do it, I remind myself what is at the signpost. Using the law as a tool for social transformation. So we have our positive bias towards women and vulnerable children. Those are our clients at the heart of everything that we do as FIDA Uganda. Those are our clients. So every move that we make, we think to ourselves, how does this impact people? And when Honorable Salamu was saying, oh, NGOs, this and this and that and that, the reality and what is presented are two different things. NGOs are working beyond their resources. People are working with salary cuts. The shrinking civic space is just something different right now. There are no donors, but people are working.
Let me
so
tell
it
you,
is there.
Let me tell
we
you,
are working.
civil society, the latitude that you have and the space you occupy, you're using only 30% of it.
So how do they use it
But how
now?
can they use
Listen,
100%?
listen.
How much do you use yourself in your parties?
Listen to me. I use
You are shut down,
I use 150%.
Which one?
They close here, I go there, they jump there.
We
they-
don't even know what impact you have made on Ugandans. For instance, what would you say is your impact on Ugandans in that part of your work?
There's a voice in the wilderness of a prophet called a political party.
And also the civil society,
And
the
listen,
voice in the
because
wilderness.
they have chosen to be the safeguard of society, a safeguard of society, because we occupy that space, and I did occupy it for 10 years as a worker in the Red Cross Society, and I'll tell you that space cannot be impacted, cannot be eroded the way the political space is. So you still have space to be. But unless they have weaponized vulnerability, that when speaking for the vulnerable, then you become an enemy of the state. If we have come to that stage of understanding the environment in which we operate, then we know that being in civic space is not enough. Come to the political space and we wind up this thing.
Musumba, political space is very different from civic space. Civic space does its work. political space is influential in terms of the national decisions and policies and what happens. The civic space is to assist and create awareness and make sure that such policies and whatever are done
For what?
by the
What is the end point? Equals what?
In creating change, every
Yes.
actor has a role to play, right?
Yes, yes.
If you're, let me just give an example. If you're in the civic
cumulative
space,
effect of all that
No,
must
no, no,
come
no.
to bear on society.
yes, it
Yes,
must
that
come
is
to bear
true.
on the society.
Yeah.
That is your
Tell us.
ultimate outcome, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Along that chain, you have a different pool of actors. So in the marriage bill that you are referencing, there is only so much that the civic space can
Yes.
go for. You can hold consultative meetings, put input into a bill, and then it goes to the next stage of an actor, right? That actor has to have the due diligence to make sure that the previous actor that placed in input into that bill, that those go to the next actor. That is why you may be a member of parliament, but you are not the speaker. You get?
young
Because
lady,
it is
let
a
me
chain.
tell you,
It is
you
a
don't
chain.
know that right now as you talk about the marriage bill, it is now 80 years. 80 years since we started fighting for that law. The Karema report,
Which is why
Now,
I am
I don't
particularly
the
asking
40
about
years-
it.
The
Yes.
40 years of Museveni adding on since 62 independence, when in fact Karema report working on the marriage
The marriage
bill
and divorce bill.
up to now. So that one, for instance, me, I think
Which is
Why you
which
were
is why I'm particularly
particularly keen on
interested in
it.
it, because I think it points to a sort of systematic rot. If
It is not systematic work. That
not
marriage
not
bill,
with not with the civil society. My question is not directed to the civil society. It is with you've engaged with the legislature. Have you found the legislature to be a conducive environment to receive this bill? Are the women in parliament interested in pushing this forward?
Thank you. So that the marriage bill has a lot of components that speak to gender equality.
Yes.
So there are provisions that are unpopular. Say provisions of the property rights of women in cohabiting
Yes.
relationships. Remember at the beginning we said that leadership is representative of people, right? So that marriage bill and gender equality and gender norms go hand in hand. If you have a group of people, very many Ugandans do not believe in, there are so many gender norms that they subscribe to. So for instance, a leader will come up, and it goes again to the way that the voting process has been sort of rooted. A leader will not come and stand for a bill that is gender progressive because they are worried that if they stand up for such a bill, they will not be voted again into what? Into power. And it brings again so many different layers of this thing that we call Uganda, the cultural issues. We are here in this room, we are all educated. These are not our problems, but if you just step out of this gate and you try to explain even close one of the marriage bill to someone, to a woman herself, she will not understand it. There is a lot of awareness creation to be done. There are a lot of gender norms. There is a lot of cultural
the
hindrances.
awareness has been made. There is no way it has not been made. Thank you for what you are debating. I just want to summarize this. The marriage and is it now
It's now
marriage
the
and
just the
divorce
marriage.
bill is
marriage
the most empowering law
For women,
for women in
Yeah.
this country.
yes.
And the moment that thing is known to be empowering for women, it cannot, that's what I concluded. Passing it is almost impossible. Because this is a law which defines what marriage is and the rights of those people who are
The
married
parties.
over their children, over the property, over one another. And now, once this law comes, which gives you a right to property, which gives you a right to your children, which gives you, then the men who don't want to release that power can't pass this law. Because it is the most, that's the reason. That's the reason. And I want to tell you that the
So
government...
marriage is interpreted as...
I want to tell you that the president himself does not want that law. We reached a stage, I don't know how many times, you don't know. I even wrote it in the book that the most disappointing failure that I have had in my life is to fail to pass through the law of marriage in Parliament. Because for you are just talking right now. The thing comes from far. Because the men, even the women said, like when they went and said, and the consultation. Instead of saying, let's pass the law, they decided to take it for consultation. And now you are consulting men and women. When you divorce, would you want to share the property with men? The men would say no, the women would say yes. Now, how can you put such a question to the public when you are interested in the lives of the people whom you are leading? Because you know it will be answered. And many women said, oh, why? For we let us stay in our homes. We are not going to be chased from the homes because the way we see this law. So that is the whole idea. The law should have come to Parliament and then it would have been passed.
And just to add on to that, you ask yourself, if you look at the marriage bill in totality, you ask yourself, what is the problem with this bill? There is no clause that you can look out and say that this clause is detrimental to this person. It empowers women. Even property, people make the assumption that women do not contribute to property. Again, it goes back to gender norms. All the care work that women are doing, you cannot quantify it for a period of 50 years to say that this person is entitled to this and this amount of property. There is nothing wrong with the marriage bill as is. There was a court decision recently that was saying that, okay, if you want this and this amount of property, can you prove contribution using receipts and what and this and that and that? You saw that court decision.
Yes, I did.
Are you hearing? Such, if you have such legislation, even in spaces of the judiciary, you get. This person has been with you, you've been together. The woman has not been sitting at home watching TV. You find she has also been involved in entrepreneurial ventures. One of the cases that we handle at FIDA Uganda, the bulk of them is land matters where women contribute money and they sign as witnesses.
Yes.
I cannot even lie about this. They sign as witnesses.
Right, we know all
about
this.
80%. So they go and then even the chairman can be in cahoots with the man and say, Kati onoteka werinyalie go signing one. So the illiterate woman signs as a witness. And then later on in court, even the educated one, okay, even the educated one signs like that. You see, there are all those issues. And that's why when you're looking at a country like Uganda, you can't debate it from the point of education and all those things. You must be aware that Uganda is not America. There are cultural impediments to the way that we live in this society. Because of that culture, there is a way that we operate. I may wear a trouser on this show, but there are spaces when we are going for legal awareness. I cannot wear it. I have to wear my dira and go.
Can we put a time frame of fixing this?
Of fixing the marriage bill?
Yes.
And that is why I had said that at every stage,
there
are actors, right?
Because
and this is a call to parliamentarians.
Thank you.
You can't put it. And recently, the bill which I participated in is even, if that's what you have, it's no good. There are certain provisions which are no good. Even making of, but I forgot it, making the official marriage is no longer now the official marriage. There are provisions which I saw when we first met with the, where we? Was FIDA there, Fairway.
Onet and FIDA?
Yes, I even objected to those things. There are certain provisions, I can't remember them now, but which are even, they say they are the mean or reducing the marriage, this where you go into
a transaction.
And wed. I think they say the other one, I can't remember. But you know those provisions which
you think in an effort to want to pass anything that looks like a marriage thing, you are at a risk of watering down what a family is, because we are constructing, we are securing a family. But then the question, Honorable Salama, what is a family if both parties in the family unit cannot be treated equally? It means that your concept of a family is flawed from the start. That you're securing a family, and that family must have equal rights in this relationship for it to succeed. Now, where are the threats? Over time, by now, you should have had a study on where the threats to this bill are.
It is the property.
So now, how do we then go back and strategically deal with the property? What do we do? Because even if it takes another 10 years, it's worth it. Instead of lamenting,
But haven't we taken
let
how
us
many
be
years have we
systematic.
taken?
No, we've hit a snag.
Yes, you are going to hit that.
Now,
snag.
can we
The thing
go
of
back and
cohabit-
audit? Can we go back and
You know-
audit and go back, give ourselves 10 years? Because I'll be gone, she will be gone. It will be your time. What kind of situation will it be? There'll be more educated girls. That's why you are hearing that they're now talking about girl, boy, child. You know. Now, when that, so that we are able to have another go at it. The
Thank
new
you.
boy and the new girl. Which relationship are you going to be in? Power relationship. So that is properly understood. And 10 years is not a long time. By the way.
Something
Thank
that
you,
I-
Honorable.
Okay.
So
Please,
sorry.
please.
Our time is fast spent. But before we end, there's one last question that I think is fundamental to this conversation. The question of affirmative action. The status quo in the country has led to persistent attacks on the provision of affirmative action. We only have about 16 women in parliament that are there on direct seats. So should we take away the provision of affirmative
for me,
action?
what I want to say straight away,
Yes.
affirmative action in terms of political representation in parliament has proved counterproductive.
Yes.
The reason why affirmative action was put there was not just to have women just occupy a seat for women. By the time affirmative action came in on the political platform, women were not at all participating in politics. And yet it was very clear, especially when these people were in the bush fighting, it came very clear to them that actually women have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
Women have ideas, women can work, women are not different from men. And yet, they don't have a right or position to bring their wisdom and ideas onto the political decision-making level. And therefore they said, but as far as the culture is concerned and the attitude of the people, women are not seen as politicians. They will not be elected. And therefore, we said, let us put in affirmative action.
Provide a safe
where
passage.
at least you can provide a passage for a woman to get into political
realm.
positions. Now, the purpose for getting there was one, women have ideas, they have wisdom, but the culture and everything do not allow them to participate in decision making. And when they don't participate in decision making, it will be like a bird flying with one,
One wing.
one wing.
Yeah.
It can't fly well and it can't fly
Far.
And therefore, the ideas of women and their thinking, which is very different from men, because they bring different perspective as to how they perceive things and so on, which was lacking in decision making. And therefore, you could not make decisions which are appropriate to humanity when women's ideas are missing.
Thank you,
now,
Honor.
we say, let us put them there. Wait. We put them there. Now, when they go there, point number one, their decisions to be taken on board, the ideas. Point number two, the proverb that the one who wears the shoe knows how it pinches most.
Yeah.
That women are women.
So
They
they
are
can
the
speak
ones
for
who
women.
know more about those concerns of women that they will articulate it there. And what this was to prove was, if when a woman goes there and does very well, it will have impression on the people, the electorate,
And society.
and the women themselves. It will motivate other women to say, hey, if Matembe can go there and work,
So do I. So can
I can also do that. So more women will contest on those direct seats. Secondly, the electorate will say, when we put Matembe there, she did very well. Why don't you put another woman there? And to tell you, for me, in Mbarara, those objectives of affirmative action were in the process of being realized. Because I went there as one woman among 10, there were 10 men of the counties and I was the 11th. The next elections, in fact, of CA, Winnie came. But because I had done so well, people said, hey, Winnie replaced Ntimba. So we became two.
Yeah.
And then next time around, Meru Mujenyi came from Nyabushozi. and replaced Karuhanga. And so, by the time we left Parliament, we had already secured 3 positions in Mbarara for men. So the objective was not to stay there, but to make an impact in such a way that we will influence society to elect, and it will motivate and inspire more women to contest on the direct seats.
So honorable.
So it became counterproductive, and it has proved that it is just the opportunity. It is only for opportunity to get a woman there and have their salary.
But I beg,
and not. So I want it to be, which we've been proposing all this time, and it is not taken up. If we are to get affirmative action in that political platform, let it be 1 man and 1 woman per district. Because those will be enough. It will reduce the expenditure of this country, and it will get both voices in the political arena in Parliament. We've been asking for that all this time.
Omega.
No, just to maybe supplement what Honorable Matembe was saying, I stand with the view that affirmative action still has its place here. If you look at it, the whole concept of affirmative action is to get a group that has been excluded out of a space and open it up so that that group can come and make contributions to that space. Again, Article 21 of the Constitution speaks to the right to equality. So equality is not just a personal liberty. It must be seen even in positions of what? Of liberty. And when you have women in these spaces, it is good. But just to say that, why are people losing faith in affirmative action? It is not the concept of affirmative action that people are losing faith in. It is now the process, right?
Yes.
It is the process. So you have to ask yourself, if the issue is the process, what is so flawed with the process, right? If voters are voting for sugar, isn't that a huge economic issue that you should be looking at? If you're debating those issues, you can not only debate them from here, to say that affirmative action is no longer irrelevant. You must look at it and say that, okay, what is the process by which these people are elected? Because there are MPs, say 30, 40 years ago, that made it on affirmative action seats and entered those spaces and created real impactful change that we are seeing to this day. So you do a case study and say, okay, if there is voter bribery, I remember Honorable Matembe was making reference to billions and billions of shillings being poured into an election. So does that make the seat irrelevant? Or does the process make the thing irrelevant?
No. It has become, let me tell you, it has become unproductive. The nature in which it is being used by those who support NRIM to go there and just support the government.
And I agree with you, the nature in which it is being abused.
It has been abused, it has proved counterproductive. It is for access, to get women access jobs, to get salary. It is not driven by what drove the people to get into affirmative action.
Thank you so much.
And that's why I want it to the nature of
the
it
nature
be changed.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
Let it be a qualification-based affirmative action. And this conversation has come to at the university. You've seen those affirmative action things of 1.5. We had the MasterCard scholarship. People were complaining, oh, this MasterCard scholarship, it no longer has a place in Uganda. Why? If you would look at the lists of people, very many of them would be coming from one region. But then you have to ask yourself, substance over matter. The concept of the MasterCard scholarship is to help vulnerable people access education.
And if it's not,
so if the MasterCard scholarship, I am building. If the MasterCard scholarship and those resources have to give vulnerable people an opportunity, if the process have been flawed, it is a matter of reviewing the process and making sure that, okay, if there is any tribalism involved in the access of this scholarship, how do we curb it? That is the same question of affirmative action. If it is an issue of qualification, how do we make sure that the right people are in qualified places? So affirmative action in itself as a principle is not flawed.
You don't support
because
what
that
gets forward.
Thank
you. In principle, nobody is saying no. But the nature in which it is.
The nature. I agree with you.
Totally proof.
I agree with you.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
It has been abused. It is counterproductive, and it should be restructured. Even the 1.5 should be restructured in such a way that actually that 1.5 should be given to vulnerable schools down there in the village, not Gayaza, not Wudo, not what. Because once things happen, affirmative action is supposed to be reviewed. When you are reviewing it, you look at the nature, you look at the impact, then you come out with a structured one which can move forward, but not just retaining something. Do you know that we have now lost the mainstream? Women are now less than where they had reached. They are less. Everybody runs now to a district, they run, they give them money, they go through. What do? You go to Mbarara, for instance, if you ask which woman represented Miria Matembe Musumba, nobody will tell you the name of, nobody knows that these women are there, but they are there earning 50 million per month, they are there enjoying life. So what impact is it having on the woman in this country?
Thank you so much, Honorable.
That's the fact.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been a very engaging discussion. We have come to the end of our time. So I would like to ask you all to give your closing remarks, starting from Omega, your brief closing remarks.
My brief closing remarks are that, again, I go back to Article 21, the whole concept of equality, right? If a space is equal, if a space is inclusive, you will have good results. The question again says, has the increased number of women in leadership brought about significant changes? And my closing remarks are this: yes. On all fronts, yes. The moment the gates of a space are open to accommodate each and every member of society, then that person's views and their influence and their opinion on a decision cannot be undermined. My opinion on a decision as a woman is not the opinion of a disabled woman. You see?
Yes.
And that opinion of a disabled woman is not the opinion of a woman living with albinism. So leadership in itself must be open to accommodate everyone. The Constitution says that we are all equal before the law, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, right?
Yes.
So if going by this book, and I know that sometimes what the Constitution says and what is on ground may be two different things. But at the end of the day, we are still governed by this book. It is the law of the land. So women's position in leadership, whether it is through different fronts, whether it is through unpopular ways, women's position in leadership cannot be undermined. It has significant strides. Let me just read you statistics. DEVEX says that over 26% of the global GDP would have risen by 2025 if women had an equal role in the world of work like men. The global GDP, 26%. By next year, that is how much we should have grown. That is $28 trillion. That is that's the GDP of the United States of America and China. Two whole countries, their GDPs for a year. If each and every woman the gates were open for them to enter leadership spaces, work spaces. So for me, the concept of equality is an non-negotiable. Whether it is in leadership, whether it is in business, whether it is in decision making. Those are my closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Honorable Musumba.
Two things. As long as we look at ourselves as electorate, then we can't be women. We are just numbers. And that is the biggest attraction now, to talk about electorate. During the Matembe's time, women were women. Whichever political shade you were, even the UPCs and the DPs, women were women. And until we go back into repositioning that concept of gender, whether you talk how much English or do what, you remain a woman. Gender. Because most of the people in leadership have become men. They have lost the woman gender. And finally, to say that we as a country must reset. Just break down everything that you know about the way society is structured and build a new society. But that society cannot be uniform. You see, these laws about marriage, they're becoming uniform. But if you go to Acholi, it's a different cultural setting. You come to Busoga, it's a different. To make them uniform, that creates threats to each of those groups. So if for instance, you did a marriage thing for Buganda, the Buganda will see themselves in that. And it will be theirs. If there's one for Busoga, because there are 13 regions at independence, then we will see ourselves, but presented the way marriage and divorce, It looks an alien, an elitist thing that threatens the rest of the people you're speaking for, because they've seen us speak about things that we've not implemented. So that fear is inbuilt, is inherent within each ethnic group, and I think let us try something else. Marriage will be marriage, but a marriage in Busoga is not the same marriage in Ankole, unless you want to make it so.
The issue is about the rights
Of the people in the
parties.
marriage.
I will
The
tell you something.
Human rights.
When you take,
And
when you
non-negotiable.
when
They
you
are
go
non-negotiable.
Kuhinjira, I go to
Human rights are
Kuhinjira,
non-negotiable.
I go to all these things, and you might want them to be so, but they are applied differently. They end up as rights. I don't think there's a loved person in a family like a girl child. Why would anybody want to harm the interests and the
But
future?
those girls of
But it
Busoga who
happens.
never go to school, who marry too early, now what are you talking about? Is that love?
So it cannot
That
be
is-
that they
that
are
is
being
not
applied
like-
as
yes,
per
please,
se.
Honorable.
It's not even marriage.
We shall come
can't.
later.
That
Let
is
me
trade.
give my
It's not
concluding-
even marriage.
Yes, please, Honorable
Let me
Matembe.
They
give
can't
my
be
con-
as per application
Let me
basis.
give my concluding remark.
That's the best shot I'm telling you.
For me, I'll go back to how I started. The influence of women in the political decision-making positions does not necessarily depend on numbers. Numbers can be used on the time for voting for something. But when it comes to participating in such a way that to influence the governance agenda and make it responsive to the interests of women and their concerns, it is about capacity, it is about ability, it is about knowledge, it is about the passion, it is about the intention and the vision of those women who got to participate in that space. That's what it is all about. I know very well, I have personal experience. We were 2 women on the Odochi Commission. Two of us like this, Mary Maituma and I. But by the end, by the time of coming out with what we came out, we were able to influence first the rest of the commissioners to support all this provision you keep quoting. It was a real fight. I remember one day I told Odochi, I'm going to stand on this table if you can't put that provision there. And Mutibwa, I think Mr. Mutibwa said, you know this woman, you know who she is. She may stand on the table, and if I stood on the table, they are seated, they would be looking down, and things would not be so
Then it would be abominable.
It would be abominable. So they put the provision there. So that you've got that.
Yeah.
So don't face numbers. Don't want. And another point I want to say, that the current situation and the current political dictatorial militarized governance, the women are in political space, political position without power and influence. They don't have power. They're in political space of power, serving power. They're just serving power. If I can give you an example, how can a vice president feel so proud and glad to be delegated, the first lady delegates the vice president to go and represent her? And then the vice president is so happy. What is she doing? Always going to represent, always going here, always. What exactly is her agenda? What is her position? What is she doing? Therefore, I want to conclude by saying, as long as the political environment has proved dictatorial and militarized and financial, and all the ethical values and moral systems are broken, please save women. Stop condemning them. Stop criticizing them. They are the same like the men, and therefore my call for Ugandans, you people, rise up so that we redeem our nation. And I want to tell you that the word of God, which I always quote, tells me that some people trust in chariots, others trust in horses. But for us who trust in the Lord, for them, they will be brought down and fall. But for us, we shall rise up and stand firm.
Thank you.
That is the hope I want to give to Ugandans. Those wicked people, those robbers, those dictators, those militaries, all those, if we rise up and trust in our God, He will deal with those wicked. One day they will fall down on their knees, and
Thank
we
you
shall
so
rise
much.
up and stand. Ugandans rise up and have hope.
Thank you so much,
in our
Honorable.
God.
Capacity, intention, and passion, that should be the structure of every competent woman leader. We must aim to restructure the entire system while still centering women. The engagement this afternoon has been engaging, thoroughly engaging. I'm very grateful for our panelists. Please keep engaged in the conversation in the comments and through our social media platforms. I thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Turiho Danita. I have been your host. Have a great day.